Hello, friend. So glad you're here tonight. Get comfortable, pull the covers up, and let the day loosen its grip. There's nowhere else you need to be. Before we begin, a small request. Most of the people listening tonight aren't subscribed. If this channel has ever helped you drift off, take a moment to subscribe and tap the like button on tonight's video. Both are free, they take 2 seconds, and they help this channel more than you'd think. And you can always change your mind later. And if you feel like it, leave a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from and what time it is where you are. I love reading them. Tonight's question is a quiet one. How did Roman soldiers actually sleep night after night without heating? The answer is slower and stranger than you might expect, and every piece of it is real. There is nothing to do here and nothing to remember. If you fall asleep before the answer is finished, that is exactly how this is meant to work. Settle in and let your breathing slow down. One more thing before we begin. I'm also a co-founder of a sleep app built to be the most affordable one out there. No ads, ever. Just sounds and stories made to help you sleep. It may not be released yet as this video goes up, but if you're watching a little later, it might be out by now. Just search for it, it should be easy to find. It works on iPhone, Android, and everything in between. Downloading it is the best way to support this channel. In the evening chill of a distant frontier fort, soldiers gathered with their mess group. Together, they had built the camp from scratch each day, and now, with night approaching, it was time to rest. They huddled close, seeking warmth in numbers against the cold. The simple rations were shared among them, passed around with practiced ease. Each man knew his role, the routine comforting in its familiarity. The clink of metal cups and the soft murmur of voices filled the air as they ate, their bodies weary from the day's labour. They talked softly, sharing stories and laughter, each bite of food a small victory against the unforgiving landscape. The fire's glow cast long shadows on their faces, highlighting the lines of fatigue etched there. A chill wind swept through the camp, making them pull their blankets tighter around their shoulders. The smell of smoke and damp earth filled the air, a comforting blend that signaled the end of another day. They listened to the distant howl of wolves, knowing it was just another night in this untamed land. Their breaths misted in the chilled air as they finished their meals. The fire's embers cast a faint glow on the rough-hewn logs of the fort. A soft patter of rain began, adding to the symphony of nature around them. They settled into their bedrolls, the warmth of shared company a bulwark against the night's chill. Their worn boots scraped against the hard-packed earth as they moved closer to the fire, seeking its warmth. The crackle of burning wood was a soothing lullaby, its rhythm matching their slowing breaths. Each man pulled his hat lower, shielding his eyes from the smoke as he lay down for the night. The steady drip of rain on the canvas above created a calming melody that blended with the distant howls of the wolves. The Marian reforms introduced significant changes to the organization and training of legions in this moment, a shift that would redefine their world. They lived amidst fortifications, sturdy walls of stone or wood surrounding them, offering protection from the cold winds that swept across the land. Each day, they followed precise routines, honed through rigorous training. Their formations were tight, each soldier knowing his place, creating a sense of unity and purpose within the ranks. They practiced with swords, shields clattering against one another in synchronized rhythm. The ground beneath their feet was often hard and unyielding, but they found solace in the discipline they had come to know so well. The changes were not merely administrative, they altered how the legions moved, fought, and even rested, shaping a new era of Roman military prowess. Their breaths misted in the chill air as they marched, each step echoing through the encampment. Shields were raised and lowered in unison, a silent language understood only by those within their ranks. The weight of armor pressed against their skin, a constant reminder of their duties. In the evenings, fires burned low, casting long shadows across tents and equipment, signaling the end of another day's rigor. Their bodies ached from the day's exertions, muscles tight and tender beneath layers of cloth and leather. They huddled together around the fires for warmth, the heat radiating against their weary limbs. The scent of roasting meat filled the air, mingling with the smoky tang of burning wood. In the quiet moments between training sessions, they whispered stories of home, a fleeting respite from the harsh realities of their lives. Important locations also had honor guards, vigilantly standing watch over these vital points of the Roman world. They were stationed at entrances and strategic vantage points, their steady presence a reassuring sight to those who passed by or resided within the walls. The cold air nipped at them as they stood sentinel, their breath visible in the chill. Their armor gleamed under the moonlight, the metal reflecting the silvery glow. The rhythmic stomping of their feet on the cold stone ground was a constant, comforting sound that echoed through the nights. They held their spears with steady hands, the wooden shafts worn smooth from years of use. Their vigil continued throughout the night, unbroken and resolute. Their cloaks, heavy with dew, draped over their shoulders like blankets of frost. The occasional hoot of an owl pierced the stillness, a distant echo in the quiet night. A thin layer of ice clung to the edges of their helmets, melting and reforming with each exhale. The watch fires nearby crackled softly, casting flickering shadows on the stone walls. Their eyes scanned the darkness, alert for any sign of trouble that might disturb the peace they guarded. The frost on their cloaks crunched softly as they shifted their weight, the sound barely audible over the wind's whisper through the nearby trees. The steady glow of the watchfires warmed their faces, a brief respite from the biting cold. Their hands gripped their spears tighter, a silent promise to defend what was theirs, no matter the hour or the weather. In the year 1453, the eastern half of the Roman Empire crumbled, marking the end of a civilization that had stood for over 2 millennia. They were people who had known no other way of life, living in forts where the nights were cold and the comforts few. Their days were filled with the rustle of their cloaks as they moved about their duties, the clanking of metal against stone, and the whispered conversations that echoed through the barracks. They slept on straw mats or simple cots, huddled together for warmth, with only the occasional crackling of a small fire to keep them company. In the quiet of those nights, they were reminded of the vastness of their world, now gone forever. The wind would howl through the cracks in the stone walls, carrying with it the scent of pine and the faint echoes of distant battles. The moonlight filtering through the narrow slits of the windows cast long, dancing shadows on the worn wooden floorboards. A faint drip from a leaky roof would sometimes be the only sound to punctuate the stillness, while the flickering flame of an oil lamp provided a comforting glow in the darkness. The soft sighs and occasional snore of their fellow soldiers served as a gentle lullaby, their bodies curled up like question marks in the dim light. The rustling of straw would occasionally disrupt the calm as someone shifted in their sleep, a subtle reminder that they were not alone. The stone walls, while sturdy, retained the chill from the day, making the fire's warmth all the more precious. A faint dusting of snow on the floorboards was visible under the moonlight. Muffled footsteps above hinted at the sentinels pacing their watch. Each inhale carried a whiff of smoke and dampness, grounding them in the present as distant echoes lulled them further into slumber. Later in their days, Roman soldiers wore long-sleeved tunics, combining them with trousers for warmth. The wool of these garments offered some protection against the cold frontier nights. They would don these layers methodically, buttoning up against the chill. These practical clothes served as a barrier against the harsh elements they faced. In their routines, adjusting these tunics and trousers became second nature. The fabric, rough yet comforting, was a familiar texture to them. They moved with purpose in these layered garments, ready for any task that came their way. The weight of the wool draped around their shoulders like a reassuring embrace, each thread worn soft by time and use. The trousers cinched at the waist, with thick leather belts, the buckles cold against their fingers as they fastened them in place. Each button on the tunic pressed into their skin with deliberate intent, securing their armor against the wind. The layers shifted subtly with each movement, a rhythmic dance of comfort and function that was as familiar as breathing. The wool, despite its weight, was surprisingly breathable, allowing their skin to remain dry even on the longest of marches. Each tunic had been sewn by hand, the stitches tight and durable, holding up against the rigors of daily wear. The trousers, fitted snugly around the calves, ensured no impediment during maneuvers, while the belt loops kept the leather in place, preventing unwanted slippage. As they sat around the campfire at night, the fabric's warmth enveloped them like a gentle blanket against the encroaching darkness. In the quiet of a Roman fort, from the 1st to 2nd century AD, soldiers found their rest. They lay down on beds of straw, their breaths visible in the cold night air. The fort's walls muffled the distant howls of wolves, creating an insulating silence. Their woolen tunics provided some warmth against the biting chill, but comfort was a luxury they didn't often enjoy. Routine dictated their lives, the same path to the communal barracks, the same ritual of laying out their equipment before sleep took them. The fort's dim lantern lights cast long shadows on the stone walls, a gentle reminder of the world outside. They were not alone in their slumber, for the fort was alive with the soft snores and occasional coughs of their comrades. Their world was one of simplicity and hardship, yet it was their reality, etched into the very stones they slept upon. Their dreams were haunted by the echoes of battle cries and the clash of metal, a constant reminder of their duty. The damp stone floor seeped through their blankets, chilling their bones further. A subtle draught whistled through the cracks in the walls, carrying with it the scent of smoke from the nearby hearth. Morning would come too soon, with the harsh call of the bugler waking them to another day of rigorous training and grueling labour. Their hands, rough from years of wielding weapons and tools, searched for warmth in the folds of their blankets. The weight of their leather belts, still fastened around their waists, dug into their hips as they shifted in sleep. A faint echo of the day's march resonated through their aching legs, a lingering reminder of the miles covered. The rhythmic drip of rainwater from the fort's eaves created a soothing symphony against the stone floor, lulling them into a deeper rest. A Roman wrist purse was discovered in the Czech Republic, offering insights into the logistics of Roman soldiers' lives on the frontier. They would tie these small pouches to their wrists, securely holding coins or trinkets. The leather used for these purses speaks to the resourcefulness of the Romans, who made do with the materials available. In the harsh conditions of the frontier, every item had its purpose and was carefully maintained. The sound of coins jingling inside as they walked would have been a familiar one, a small comfort amidst the cold and isolation. These wrist purses were not just for decoration, but served a practical role in their daily routines. Each purse tells a story of the Roman soldiers' resilience and adaptability in unfamiliar lands. The leather would darken with sweat and age, the stitching fray slightly over time, but it held firm against the elements. The weight of the coins was a constant reminder of their value, both in trade and as a measure of distance travelled. The knot securing the purse to the wrist was a simple one, yet effective against the rigours of marching and battle. At night, when they sat by their campfires, these purses would rest nearby, within easy reach but out of sight. The coins within would clink softly as a soldier reached for his rations, the sound reassuring him of their presence. The leather strap, worn smooth by sweat and use, would chafe slightly against the skin, a minor discomfort traded for the security it provided. In the quiet moments between battles, fingers might trace the stitching, feeling the slight ridges and imperfections that told tales of repair and mending. And when the soldier lay down to sleep, the purse would nestle against his chest, a silent sentinel guarding his most valued possessions. In this world of the past, a simple yet functional accessory adorned the arm of Roman soldiers, the wrist purse. Worn around the left arm, it kept the right hand free for combat, a small detail that spoke volumes about their lives and priorities. This humble pouch held essentials close at hand, ready to be retrieved with ease. It was not merely an ornament, but a vital part of their daily equipment. In the chill of the frontier nights, they would wrap it around their arm, feeling its weight against their skin as they prepared for rest. The leather creaked softly in the quiet of the barracks, a familiar sound that blended into the rhythm of their lives. Their arms grew accustomed to its embrace, the strap leaving a groove in the flesh over time. It was a silent companion on marches and maneuvers, swinging gently with each stride, rarely slipping from its place. The worn leather absorbed the sweat of battle and the cold of night watch, becoming as much a part of them as their own skin. Inside, coins clinked softly against one another, a subtle reminder of what was at stake. The weight of the purse, when emptied of its contents, was barely noticeable, yet it anchored them to their duty. Its strap, worn smooth by constant use, provided a comforting grip in times of chaos. The scent of leather and time seeped into their clothes, a subtle marker of their service. As they lay down to sleep, the purse rested on their arm like a protective shield, guarding their possessions against the night's uncertainties. In the quiet of the night, Roman soldiers would gather in groups of 8, known as contubernium. They would huddle together for warmth, their bodies pressed close against each other to ward off the chill. The cold air would be filled with the soft sounds of their breaths and the occasional rustling of blankets. They would take turns keeping watch, a silent vigil in the darkness. Their bedding was simple, often just woolen blankets laid on the hard ground. There was comfort in the shared experience, a sense of camaraderie that transcended the discomfort of their surroundings. Their breaths would mist in the cold air, a visible sign of life amidst the stillness. The weight of their armor would press against the ground, forming indentations that would hold the night's dew. Their fires, if any, would have long since died out, leaving only embers to provide faint warmth. In the distance, the sound of distant wildlife or the rustling of leaves in the wind might occasionally reach their ears, a reminder of the vast world beyond their encampment. Their shared body heat would rise like a subtle fog, creating a temporary sanctuary against the night's chill. The weight of their helmets would rest on the cold earth, each soldier finding solace in the familiar shape of his shield nearby. The smell of damp wool and faint sweat would mingle with the scent of distant campfires, a reassuring blend that spoke of survival. The first light of dawn would begin to creep over the horizon, casting long shadows across their makeshift beds before awakening them from their slumber. In the heart of their military life, each contubernium found shelter together in a tent crafted from goat leather during a campaign. The shared space offered respite from the elements, a simple yet effective barrier against the cold and wind. They would huddle close, 8 men in total, seeking warmth from one another as the night air grew chilly. The soft patter of rain on their tent would lull them into a sense of security, the familiar scent of leather surrounding them like an old friend. This was their world, a small sanctuary amidst the vast wilderness they traversed. Each night, they would retire to this humble abode, seeking solace in its simple comforts before venturing forth once more. The faint glow of a fire outside cast dancing shadows on the tent's walls, creating a subtle light show that soothed their weary eyes. The rough texture of their leather armor pressed against the ground beneath them, providing an uneven cushion that eventually became comforting. A slight breeze whispered through the tent's flaps, carrying with it the faintest scent of distant smoke from nearby encampments. Their breaths synchronized in the stillness, a gentle rhythm that filled the quiet night air. Their shared body heat would rise and fall with each breath, creating a subtle wave of warmth that seemed to pulse through the air. The tent's leather walls would creak gently in the breeze, like the comforting groans of an ancient tree. A soft, earthy scent from their worn boots filled the space, mingling with the smell of leather and distant smoke. Each man would find a sense of tranquility in the familiar routine, their minds slowly drifting towards sleep as the night deepened. The Roman army camps were designed for quick assembly and disassembly, a feat of efficiency tailored to the needs of their soldiers. They would gather materials from nearby areas, constructing makeshift shelters that provided minimal protection from the cold night air. In these simple dwellings, they would huddle together for warmth, the sounds of their breathing filling the silence. Each morning, they would dismantle their temporary homes as swiftly as they had built them, leaving no trace behind but the memory of their presence. The routines were consistent and familiar, a rhythm that comforted them amidst the harsh realities of life on the frontier. Their hands, calloused from years of labour and battle, knew swiftly yet precisely to lace together branches and vines. The faint glow of a dying fire cast long shadows across their faces, illuminating the weariness in their eyes. A soft breeze would occasionally rustle through the thin walls, carrying with it the scent of distant rain and reminding them of home. Their bodies, weary from the day's march, found solace in the simple act of lying down on the makeshift beds of leaves and grass. Their breaths would condense in the cool night air, creating a gentle mist that clung to their faces like a comforting shroud. The rough texture of the branches and vines would press into their backs, leaving patterns on their skin, temporary reminders of the shelter they created. The distant rumble of thunder would occasionally reach them, a soothing lullaby that blended with the steady rhythm of their heartbeats. In the quiet moments before sleep, the rustling leaves and the faint hum of insects served as a familiar symphony, guiding them into a peaceful slumber. Every Roman soldier knew exactly where to find everything in a fortified camp, thanks to its standardized layout. They would help construct these camps every night, ensuring that everything had its place. The tents were pitched with precision, creating an orderly grid within the defensive walls. Each soldier had his designated spot, and they all moved through their routines efficiently. There was a comfort in this familiarity, despite the cold nights. They would lay down on simple wooden beds or on pallets made of straw. The sounds of their breaths filled the air as they drifted off to sleep, wrapped in their cloaks for warmth. The routine was calming, and it brought a sense of security amidst the harsh frontier conditions. The wind would occasionally rustle the tent flaps, casting flickering shadows from the firelight outside. Each breath inhaled the scent of wood smoke and damp earth, a familiar nightly fragrance. The subtle hum of conversation would fade as one by one the soldiers succumbed to exhaustion. Their bodies would sink slightly into their beds, finding comfort in the simple routine that eased them into sleep. The gentle glow of the lantern cast long shadows across their faces, creating a sense of tranquility within the tent. The steady rhythm of their breathing became a lullaby to those still awake, coaxing them towards slumber. A soft murmur from outside signaled the approach of night watchmen, reinforcing the camp's security blanket. As the final embers of the fire flickered out, the soldiers sank deeper into their beds, surrendering to the night's embrace. The smallest unit of the Legion that shared a tent was called Contubarium. They would huddle together in these tight quarters, the cold air biting at their breath. The fabric of the tent would rustle softly in the wind, a comforting sound amidst the harsh conditions. They laid out their thin blankets on the hard ground, trying to find any semblance of warmth. The smell of the campfire lingered, offering some respite from the chill. Their routine was simple yet strict, ensuring they were ready at a moment's notice. The sounds of their breathing filled the tent, a soft symphony that signaled the end of another day on the frontier. Their boots, heavy with the day's mud and snow, were placed neatly by the tent's entrance. The warmth of their bodies slowly seeped into the cold earth beneath them. Each man wore a tunic and cloak, layers that provided meager protection against the biting wind. A single lamp burned low, casting long shadows across the tent's interior. Their breaths visible in the frigid air, they shifted closer to one another for warmth. The tent flap was secured with a heavy rope, blocking out the wind's howl. Each man clutched his shield, ready for any alarm that might wake them from their slumber. Their weapons lay within reach, silent guardians against the night's uncertainties. Their woolen tunics scratched against the tent's coarse fabric as they moved. The smell of damp leather from their armor filled the air, mingling with the fading scent of wood smoke. A faint glow from the distant watchfires occasionally illuminated the tent's canvas, casting eerie shadows that danced on the ceiling. The rhythmic beating of their hearts echoed softly within their chests, a quiet reminder of life amidst the stillness. Roman tents for sale included items like papilios, a rectangular tent, and carum, a four-sided pyramidal roof tent. These structures were carefully crafted to provide shelter from the elements, their designs reflecting the ingenuity of ancient engineering. The papilio offered a spacious interior, large enough to accommodate several soldiers. Its rectangular shape allowed for easy setup and takedown. The carum, with its distinctive pyramidal roof, provided excellent protection against rain and snow, ensuring that the soldiers remained dry throughout the night. The materials used were durable, often made from canvas or thick wool cloth, chosen for their ability to withstand the harsh conditions of frontier life. Despite the lack of modern heating, these tents offered a measure of warmth, trapping body heat within their confines. The sound of the wind rustling against the fabric was a familiar lullaby to the soldiers, signaling the end of another day in the Roman frontier forts. The gentle swaying of the tent in the breeze created a soothing rhythm that rocked the soldiers to sleep. The canvas flaps were secured with sturdy leather thongs, ensuring they remained closed against the wind. A small brazier at the tent's entrance emitted a subtle glow and warmth, casting long shadows on the tent walls. The smell of damp wool filled the air, a comforting scent that blended with the wood smoke from the brazier. The tent poles creaked softly as the wind shifted, their sturdy wood flexing slightly under pressure but holding firm. The canvas walls, though thick, were not entirely impermeable to sound. Faint murmurs of conversation and distant laughter from neighbouring tents occasionally drifted in through the weave. A thin layer of dew condensed on the interior fabric overnight, adding a slight dampness to the air within. The brazier's embers glowed dimly until dawn, their warmth gradually dissipating as sleep deepened around them. In the quiet of night, Roman soldiers found rest within their tents. These shelters were crafted from sturdy canvas and wooden poles, designed to provide both sleep and shelter during their campaigns across distant lands. The tents were not merely places to lay one's head, but vital structures that protected them from the harsh elements they often faced. As the wind rustled the fabric, soldiers would huddle together for warmth, the cold night air a constant reminder of their reality without modern comforts. Their routines were simple yet essential, rolling out their bedding, securing their belongings, and settling in for the night. The sounds of the campfire nearby provided a sense of security as they drifted off to sleep, ready to face whatever challenges the new day would bring. The canvas above them creaked with each gust of wind, its rough texture a familiar sensation against their skin. The scent of wood smoke from the nearby fire mingled with the earthy aroma of the tent, enveloping them in a comforting haze. In the distance, the soft glow of an oil lamp cast long shadows, dancing gently with each breath of air. A faint murmur of whispered conversations and the occasional snore filled the silent night, creating a sense of shared experience among the soldiers. The weight of the woolen blankets kept their bodies warm against the chill of the damp ground beneath them. The flickering light from the campfire cast dancing shadows on the tent walls, creating a sense of intimacy in their temporary home. The rhythmic breathing of their comrades served as a gentle lullaby, soothing them into a deep sleep. As the night wore on, the sound of distant wildlife became a calming backdrop to their slumber. Roman tents were designed to be easily transported, their compact nature allowing soldiers to move them swiftly and efficiently from place to place. The tents would be packed up carefully each morning, the canvas rolled tightly to keep out the cold night air that would otherwise seep in. They carried these tents with them as they traversed the harsh terrain of the frontier, setting them up again in the evenings when they stopped for the day. The familiar routine helped them to settle quickly, even after long marches. The compact design meant there was little extra material to catch the wind, reducing the noise and movement that could disturb sleep. In the quiet of the night, the soldiers would rest under the canvas, shielded from the elements by its sturdy frame. The canvas, though thin, was surprisingly effective at blocking the moonlight, casting a soft glow over the sleeping forms. The tent stakes, driven deep into the ground, held firm against the slightest breeze, ensuring a steadfast slumber. A subtle earthy scent permeated the air, a remnant of the day's journey, lulling them into a sense of tranquility. The rhythmic hum of their collective breathing filled the tent, a soothing symphony that echoed through the night. The soldiers' bodies would gradually sink into the soft mats they used as bedding, their muscles relaxing after the day's exertions. The gentle sway of the tent fabric with each breath was like a lullaby, comforting them as they drifted off to sleep. A subtle warmth emanated from the communal fire outside, seeping through the canvas and adding another layer of coziness. The occasional rustle of fabric from a neighbour shifting in their sleep would be absorbed by the tent's structure, maintaining the serene environment. In the stillness of a frontier fort, far from the comforts of home, Roman soldiers would find respite in their panuli. These cloaks, woven from wool or linen, served not just as protection against the elements, but also as blankets when the cold night air crept in. Spread out on the hard ground, they provided a layer between the soldier and the chill, a simple barrier that made the difference between rest and discomfort. The weight of the fabric, slightly worn from use, brought a sense of familiarity to even the most unfamiliar of places. With a slow exhale, the soldier would settle in for the night, the quiet rustle of the panuli becoming one with the sounds of the fort. The texture of the panuli, rough and uneven, added to its insulating properties, trapping warmth within. The edges, frayed from countless nights under the open sky, curled around the soldier's body, creating a makeshift cocoon against the night breeze. The scent of wool, faint yet comforting, carried with it memories of distant homes blending into the fort's earthy aroma. Underneath, the ground remained hard and unyielding, but the panuli softened the harshness just enough to invite sleep. The soldier's breath would occasionally mist in the cool air, a subtle reminder of the cloak's efficacy. Each gentle shift brought with it a subtle whisper of fabric against fabric, a lullaby in itself. In time, the cloak became warm from the soldiers' body heat, transforming into a cocoon that warded off more than just cold. Straw served as mattresses for Roman soldiers when it was available. They would gather what they could, piling it carefully to create a makeshift bedding. The rustling of the dry stalks against each other filled the quiet nights in their barracks. Despite its simplicity, this humble material provided some comfort against the cold stone floors. It was a routine practice to lay out these straw beds before settling down for the night. The familiar crunch underfoot became a part of their daily rituals. In the stillness of the fort, the crackle of straw under their bodies was a gentle reminder of home. This modest bedding offered respite from the hard ground, allowing them to rest more peacefully after long days on the frontier. The coarse texture of the straw would occasionally poke through their blankets, a subtle, tactile reminder of the makeshift comfort. The slight give of the stacked stalks absorbed some of the weariness from their bodies, providing a soft barrier against the unforgiving floor. As they shifted in sleep, the faint scent of hay filled the air, a familiar aroma that carried them into dreams. In the early morning light, the scattered straw would glint softly, catching the first rays and signaling the start of another day. The slight prickle of straw against their cheeks was a whisper of the countryside they once knew. The subtle sway of the mattress, with each breath inhaled and exhaled, provided a sense of tranquility, mimicking the rhythm of waves on distant shores. Each night, the stalks would gradually settle under their weight, creating an impression that seemed to mold itself to their form. In the quietude of dawn, the faint rustle of straw beneath shifting bodies was a gentle lullaby, bidding them farewell into the day ahead. Roman soldiers went to bed at nightfall, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows across the fort's courtyard. They would gather their cloaks and blankets, the wool offering some warmth against the chill of the evening air. The wind would pick up, carrying with it the distant sounds of nature as they laid out their bedding on the cold stone floor or the packed earth of their barracks. A quiet hum of activity filled the space as each soldier prepared for the night, the rhythmic sounds of their movements echoing softly in the dim light. Their breaths visible in the cool air, they would settle into their makeshift beds, the day's activities slowly fading from their minds as sleep began to take hold. Their bodies pressed into the hard surfaces beneath them, the soldiers found comfort in the familiarity of their routine. The slight scratch of straw against their skin was a comforting sensation, grounding them after the day's events. The weight of their shields and armor, placed nearby for quick access, provided an additional sense of security. As the last embers of the campfire dwindled, the darkness enveloped them, signaling the end of another day in their world. Their eyes grew heavy as they listened to the steady drip of rainwater from a leak in the roof, each drop counting down the minutes until morning. The scent of damp earth and smoke from nearby braziers filled their nostrils, mingling with the smell of sweat and oil that clung to their armor. In the darkness, they could feel the rough texture of the woven grass mats beneath their pallets, offering a thin barrier between them and the cold ground. The occasional snore or soft murmur from a neighboring soldier served as a lullaby, guiding them gently into the realm of dreams. Cloaks or blankets were required by Roman soldiers for sleeping during marches. These simple items were essential equipment, providing protection from the elements and the cold. They wrapped themselves in these coverings, seeking warmth and comfort amidst the harsh conditions of the frontier. The sounds of rustling fabric and soft footsteps filled the air as they prepared for sleep. Each soldier took care to secure his blanket or cloak, ensuring a peaceful night's rest. In the quiet of the fort, the routine was simple yet effective. Cloaks spread out, soldiers laying down, ready to face another day after a well-deserved rest. The ground beneath them was hard and unyielding, offering little comfort despite the blanket's warmth. The cold air nipped at their exposed faces, yet they drew solace from the shared heat of their companions nearby. A faint smell of wood smoke lingered in the night, a reminder of the fires that had warmed them earlier. They nestled deeper into their coverings, eager for the dawn to break and bring with it the promise of warmth from the rising sun. Their breaths misted in the chilly air as they huddled closer together for warmth. The coarse wool of their blankets scratched against their skin, a familiar discomfort that was accepted with resignation. Each soldier shifted to find a more comfortable position on the uneven ground, the rough pebbles digging into their backs. The rhythmic sounds of their slow breathing filled the night, creating a sense of shared tranquility. Their bodies ached from the day's march, each muscle protesting as they lay down. The distant howling of wolves echoed through the night, a haunting reminder of their isolated position. The weight of their armor pressed into the ground beneath them, the cold metal transferring its chill to their backs. A thin layer of dew began to form on their blankets, the moisture seeping in from the damp earth. In the quiet of evening, Roman soldiers would prepare their bedrolls for sleep. These bedrolls were simple and practical, carrying all they needed within. They would lay out a blanket made of coarse wool or linen, providing some warmth against the cold night air. Another layer might be added depending on the chill. Often, this was a thin sheet of leather or even a woven mat for extra cushioning. The sounds of their routine were soft and familiar, the rustling of fabric, the gentle creak of a pack being opened. Their comforts were few, but enough to rest after a long day in the field. The ground beneath them was hard and uneven, but a gentle rocking motion helped to ease the discomfort. They would secure their bedrolls with leather straps to keep everything in place during the night. A small fire nearby offered both light and heat, its crackling sounds blending with the distant hum of insects. The rhythmic breathing of their comrades lulled them into a peaceful slumber, marking the end of another day. Their heads rested on folded tunics, creating a slight incline that allowed for easy breathing. The occasional rustle of leaves above hinted at the canopy they had chosen for shelter. A cool breeze whispered through the open flaps of their tent, carrying scents of damp earth and distant smoke. Their bodies adjusted to the subtle irregularities of the terrain, finding a temporary peace in the simple act of sleep. Their limbs grew heavy with fatigue as they settled into the bedrolls, the wool fibers holding onto the heat of their bodies. The flickering light from the fire cast long shadows across their faces, dancing gently on the tent fabric above them. The steady rhythm of their breaths began to sync with one another, a natural harmony in the night air. The scent of pine needles from the nearby trees mixed with the smoke from the fire, creating a calming and familiar environment. The basic tunic of the Roman soldier was of undyed, off-white or red-dyed wool. In the quiet of their barracks, they would drape themselves in these simple garments, a stark contrast to the intricate designs and colours seen elsewhere. The weave of the wool was coarse, providing little warmth against the cold nights. Yet they adapted, wrapping themselves tightly, seeking comfort in familiar routines. Fragments of their clothing remain, bearing witness to the enduring red hues that once adorned these men. In the darkness, the red would have stood out, a stark reminder of their shared duty. They would settle into sleep, the gentle rustle of wool, the only sound breaking the silence. Their hands would trace the worn edges of their tunics, fingers remembering every thread. The wool was rough under their touch, a familiar texture from countless nights before. Sleep came slowly, easing into them like the first light of dawn, quiet and steady. A thin blanket might be pulled over their shoulders, offering scant protection against the chill, but enough to keep the worst at bay. Their breaths would fog the air above them, a visible trail of their presence in the otherwise still room. The weight of their packs, now discarded on the floor, left an imprint on their bodies, a ghostly reminder of the day's march. Each man was an island of warmth in the vast sea of cool night air, his blanket a flimsy barrier against the draft that snuck through cracks in the walls. The embers of the day's fire glowed faintly, casting long shadows that danced with the subtle movements of sleep. In the stillness of a cold night, Roman legionaries would don their socks to keep warm against the biting chill. These were not the soft, knitted socks of today, but simple wraps of cloth or wool tied around the ankles. The cold air would nip at their noses and ears as they tended to their nightly duties, the sounds of their footsteps muffled by the snow. Inside their barracks, the fire would cast a flickering glow over their beds, providing a small sanctuary from the winter's grip. Despite the discomfort, they were accustomed to the routine, the cold, a constant companion in their lives. Their breaths were visible in the frigid air as they performed their tasks, each exhale a brief mist before dissipating into nothingness. The weight of their woolen cloaks draped over their shoulders, heavy with the dampness of the day and the night's chill, offered scant protection but some comfort nonetheless. Their hands, red from exposure, would grip their weapons with an intensity born of necessity, the metal cold to the touch, yet offering a reassuring solidity against the night. The wind, howling softly through the narrow slits in their helmets, carried whispers of the wilderness beyond their encampment, a constant reminder of the world they protected from the warmth of their fires. Their sandals, frozen stiff from the day's march, would clunk against the hard-packed snow as they patrolled. The frost on their beards glistened like tiny crystals in the moonlight, each breath adding to the layers of ice. Their cloaks, damp and heavy, chafed against their skin, a constant irritant that was nonetheless better than the naked cold. In the silence between patrols, they would huddle together for warmth, their bodies radiating heat like small furnaces. In the cold nights of military camps, Roman soldiers performed drills and training exercises. They started their day with push-ups, their bodies pressing against the frost-covered ground. Obstacle climbing was a common sight as they navigated through makeshift courses in the dim light of dawn. Running was a regular routine, their breaths visible in the chilly air. They practiced together, their movements synchronized, echoing across the camp. The sound of boots on dirt was constant, a rhythm that filled the cold mornings. Despite the harsh conditions, they trained diligently, building strength and endurance. The cold wind served as an additional challenge, but it did not deter them from their tasks. Their hands, stiff from the cold, wrapped around metal bars, testing their grip strength. Each inhale was a sharp intake of icy air, expanding their lungs with effort. The frost on the ground crunched under their weight, providing little traction for their tired feet. As daybreak approached, the light began to reveal the misty exhalations of their collective breaths, hanging heavy in the frigid air. Their fingertips, numb from the cold, fumbled with sword hilts during practice sparring. The chill seeped through their wool tunics, clinging to their skin like a second layer. Their breaths formed thin veils of mist on their beards, momentarily obscuring their vision. Each exhale was a visible plume, dissipating slowly in the still air. Their fingers, numb and unresponsive, struggled to grasp the slippery leather reins of their horses. The cold air stung their cheeks, leaving a tingling sensation that lingered throughout their exercises. Their knees ached from the dampness, each step feeling heavier than the last. The metallic taste of blood filled their mouths as they bit down on their lips to keep their teeth from chattering. Roman soldiers stripped Jesus of the scarlet robe, removing its colourful fabric from his body. They had clothed him in it earlier, a garish symbol of their mockery. The soldiers now returned him to the cold night air, bare and exposed. They paid no mind to the chill that would soon grip him. His skin, once warmed by the robe, began to cool under the clear sky. The sounds of their laughter still echoed in his ears as they left him alone with the night. The cold wind nipped at his exposed flesh, a harsh contrast to the warmth he had briefly known. The thin fabric of the robe they had taken was now replaced by nothing but air, offering no protection against the elements. His breath misted in the chill, each exhale a cloud of condensed moisture floating away into the night. A distant star twinkled above, its light barely reaching his naked form, unable to provide any comfort or warmth. His teeth began to chatter slightly, a rhythmic dance of his jaw that he could not control. The bare soles of his feet pressed against the cold, hard ground, sending sharp waves of discomfort through his body. Each inhale was a sharp intake of air, a desperate attempt to bring warmth into his lungs. Goosebumps rose on his skin, tiny soldiers standing at attention, as if trying to fight back the encroaching chill. The wind picked up slightly, sending tiny prickles of cold across his skin like 1,000 tiny needles. His eyes watered as the chill bit deeper into his face, blurring his vision of the night sky. Each shiver that racked his body felt like a wave crashing against the shore, leaving him gasping for breath in its wake. The stillness of the night seemed to close in around him, amplifying the quiet hum of discomfort that filled every inch of his being. In the cold nights of the late Roman period, they lay to rest in simple frontier forts, devoid of the comforts we know today. The ground was hard and unyielding, offering little respite from the chill that crept in through the cracks of their crude shelters. They had no blankets or heating to shield them from the biting wind, only their worn tunics and cloaks to provide some warmth. Among the few belongings they carried with them was a belt, intricately adorned with a buckle, belt plate, and strap end. This ornate piece was not just functional, but also held personal significance, a tangible reminder of their identity in this harsh world. It clinked softly against the cold stone as they shifted in their sleep, a subtle sound that echoed through the quiet night, marking the passage of time in this distant era. Their breaths hung in the air like tiny clouds, visible in the faint light of the dying fire. Each exhale carried a hint of smoke and the lingering smell of their meagre supper. The cold seeped into their bones, making each movement deliberate and slow. They huddled together for warmth, the heat from one another's bodies barely enough to stave off the relentless chill. Their teeth chattered softly in the night air, each one a tiny percussion against their enamel. The icy wind found its way through the tiniest gaps in their clothing, sending shivers down their spines like a trail of ants. They could feel the cold creeping up from the ground beneath them, numbing their limbs and making them heavy as stone. The faint glow of the fire cast long, dancing shadows on the rough walls, keeping the darkness at bay. The day began for Roman soldiers long before the sun would rise, well before dawn's first light broke over the horizon. They would stir from their beds, often little more than straw mats on the cold stone floors of their barracks. The air was chill and damp, a stark contrast to the warmth of their blankets. Their morning routines were quiet and methodical, the clinking of metal as they equipped themselves echoing softly through the dimly lit halls. They moved with practiced efficiency, each step deliberate yet slow, their breaths visible in the frigid air as they prepared for the day ahead. The weight of their armor felt heavier in the early hours, the leather creaking softly as they moved. Their fingers fumbled slightly with the buckles and straps, the cold numbing their senses. The halls were filled with a soft glow from the few torches burning, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch endlessly across the stone floor. Their hands, rough from years of toil, struggled with the tightness of their sandals' leather straps. Each breath inhaled the scent of smouldering wood and damp stone, a familiar smell that grounded them in the early hours. The clatter of pots and utensils from the nearby kitchen echoed faintly, signalling the preparation of breakfast. A thin layer of frost clung to their cloaks, the cold seeping into their very bones. Their breaths misted in the air as they spoke softly to one another, their voices barely above a whisper. The chill permeated their tunics, clinging to their skin like a second layer of flesh. Each step on the stone floor was a deliberate placement, careful not to slip on unseen patches of moisture. Their movements were slow and cautious, as if each action required more thought in the darkness. A Roman army camp, known as a castrum, was more than just a shelter for its soldiers. It was an integral part of their battlefield strategy, offering protection and organization amidst the chaos of war. The Romans were vigilant and knew well the dangers of the dark. They performed guard duty not only during the day but also throughout the night. This constant watchfulness ensured that any potential threats could be swiftly detected and countered. The sentries would patrol the camp, their footsteps crunching against the cold, hard ground, a comforting rhythm in the stillness of the night. They would stand atop wooden towers, their breath visible in the chilly air, eyes scanning the darkness for any signs of movement or danger. Each shift was carefully timed to maintain this unbroken vigilance, their discipline and dedication to duty unwavering. Torches flickered in the wind, casting long, dancing shadows across the camp's earthen walls. The sentries' cloaks rustled softly with each movement, their hands gripping spears that were as familiar to them as their own voices. They listened intently for any anomaly in the night sounds, from the distant hoot of an owl to the subtle scrape of a boot on gravel. Their senses heightened, they remained silent, melding into the landscape, the darkness, their ally and shield. Their hearts pounded steadily within their chests, a metronome of alertness against the quiet night. The wind carried faint whispers from distant sentries, signals that only they could decipher. The weight of their armor pressed reassuringly against their backs, each link a silent reminder of their purpose. Their eyes reflected the dim torchlight, mirroring the cautious vigilance that bound them together. The camp was fortified, encircled by a deep ditch, then a high rampart of earth, and finally, the palisade. The soldiers would retreat behind these barriers as darkness descended. They knew well the dangers that lurked in the night, the shadows concealing potential threats. The cold air would seep into their tents, chilling them to the bone. Despite this, they maintained their routine, alert and ready for any sign of danger. The sounds of the night were magnified, every rustle and whisper echoing through the camp. Their senses were heightened, each one on guard, ensuring the safety of their comrades. They huddled together, seeking warmth in the frigid night. their breaths visible in the air, they waited for the first light of dawn to break through the darkness. Their fingers tensed around their weapons, ready to spring into action at the slightest provocation. The smell of wood smoke from the campfire lingered in the air, a comforting shield against the encroaching night. The torchlights flickered, casting dancing shadows on the earthen walls, creating illusions that they had to dispel with their keen eyes. The hoots of distant owls blended with the rhythmic clanking of armor, a symphony of vigilance that kept them awake through the long hours of night. Their hearts pounded in unison with the drumbeats of distant tribes, a primal rhythm that echoed through their bodies. The moon's faint light cast eerie silhouettes on the ground, each soldier becoming a shadow among shadows. The taste of dried meat from their rations lingered on their tongues, a grim reminder of their purpose. Their limbs grew weary from the constant tension, yet they remained steadfast, bound together by the shared resolve to see the dawn. The layout of a Roman camp was meticulously planned, with designated spaces for the standards and equipment. These areas were vital to the soldiers' daily lives, holding their essential tools and markers of their units. In the chill of the night, the cold air would fill these spaces, making each breath visible in the dim light of torches or lanterns. The clanking of metal and the rustling of cloth could be heard as soldiers tended to their gear, ensuring everything was ready for the morning. These moments were quiet and focused, a calm before the day's activities began. The careful arrangement allowed each soldier to know exactly where to find what they needed, even in the darkest hours. The weight of each piece of equipment was familiar to the touch, its feel a silent reassurance in the night's stillness. A gentle breeze would sometimes sweep through the camp, stirring the banners and causing the flames of the torches to dance, casting fleeting shadows on the tents. The quiet hum of whispered conversations between comrades filled the air, their voices low to avoid disturbing others already resting. Each step taken was deliberate, feet carefully finding their way through the rows of equipment, guided by years of practice and habit. The flickering light played on the soldiers' faces, casting long shadows that danced across their features as if telling secret stories. The scent of smoke and oil from the lanterns mingled with the earthy smell of the camp, creating a familiar, comforting aroma. Each soldier moved with practiced ease, bodies accustomed to navigating the intricate web of ropes and stakes that held their world together. The rhythmic clinking of metal against metal served as a subtle reminder of the strength and solidarity of their formation. Roman soldiers stood guard at regular intervals throughout the night. Their watchful eyes scanned the darkness, vigilant against unseen threats. The cold air nipped at their noses, a constant reminder of the chill that permeated these frontier nights. They wrapped their cloaks tighter around themselves, seeking warmth in the familiar fabric. The rhythmic clanking of their armor echoed softly in the stillness, a comforting sound amidst the uncertain dark. Torches flickered at intervals, casting long shadows and briefly illuminating their determined faces. In the quiet, they listened for any unusual sounds that might signal danger. Their steady presence was a silent promise of safety, a beacon against the unpredictable night. Their breaths misted in the air as they exhaled, adding to the haze that hung low and heavy. The night seemed to press against them, an unyielding presence that weighed on their minds. Each soldier gripped his spear more tightly, fingers tracing the smooth wood for reassurance. The occasional whisper of the wind through the nearby trees was the only intrusion into their focused silence. Their boots sank slightly into the damp earth with each step, muffling their footfalls and leaving faint impressions in the soft soil. The torchlight danced on the metallic edges of their helmets, creating fleeting reflections that seemed to wink at them from the shadows. A thin layer of frost began to form on their exposed skin, a gradual tightening that pricked at their senses. The distant howl of a wolf echoed through the night, a haunting reminder of the wilderness that surrounded them. In the quiet stillness of a frontier fortnight, Roman legionaries adapted to varied climates with the simple yet effective use of socks. They would don these woolen coverings on their feet, a small but significant measure against the biting cold that often accompanied the darkness. The cold was not a constant companion, rather it would arrive as an unpredictable guest, demanding preparation from those who sought to sleep undisturbed. The rustling of cloth and the slight creaks of leather as they readied themselves were the only sounds breaking the silence, indicative of their practical approach to the changing seasons. In the dim light cast by a single oil lamp, The legionaries would tuck their socks carefully around their ankles, ensuring a snug fit that promised warmth through the night. This humble adaptation served them well, allowing them to rest without the luxuries of heating systems we now enjoy. The fort's stones, cold to the touch but sturdy underfoot, provided a stark contrast to the cozy comfort of their woolen socks. Their routine was simple yet effective, reflecting an understanding of the environment and a commitment to enduring the harsh conditions with resilience. Their socks, damp from the day's sweat and chilled by the night air, would soon warm from the friction of their feet against the wool. The weave was tight enough to keep out drafts, yet loose enough to allow circulation, a balance honed over years in varied terrains. A slight pressure on the sole, a subtle shifting as they turned in sleep, ensured no gap formed for the cold to seep in. The comfort of their socks was not merely physical, it brought a sense of familiarity and security amidst the unpredictability of the frontier. In this moment of the night, officers were entitled to their own honor guard. They would huddle close together in their small quarters, trying to conserve warmth. The cold stone walls offered little respite from the biting chill outside. Each soldier's breath formed a visible cloud in the air, adding to the foggy atmosphere of their cramped space. The routine was simple yet vital. One sentry would stand watch while the others slept, their bodies pressed against each other for warmth. The honor guard was not just a privilege but also a necessity, providing an extra layer of security in the darkness. Their movements were quiet and calculated, avoiding any unnecessary disturbance to the rest of the fort. The sounds of their breathing and the occasional rustle of their blankets filled the room, creating a soothing rhythm that helped them drift off to sleep. Their eyes would slowly close, giving in to the weight of their heavy lids. The scent of wood smoke from distant fires lingered on their clothing, a comforting reminder of warmth. Each man's body relaxed into the firm support of another, finding solace in the simple act of shared presence. Their world narrowed to the steady beat of hearts and the soft whisper of wool against wool. Their hands found comfort in the worn edges of their cloaks, fingers intertwining for warmth. The faint glow of embers from a dwindling fire cast long shadows on the stone walls, creating an illusion of depth in the confined space. A soft snore began to ripple through the room, echoing like distant thunder. The scent of the earth beneath their feet rose up, grounding them in the quietude. And that is how Roman soldiers found their rest, night after night, long before our own comforts existed. Their nights are over now, and yours is just beginning. Sleep well.